So I just launched the recording. Hello again, everyone. So thank you so much for joining us. So welcome to this second episode masterclass on women empowerment. So today we will be talking about changing our old habits to enhance our leadership skills. So before getting started, I just would like to remind a couple of rules for this webinar to make it a positive experience for everyone. So please stay muted during the webinar and turn off your camera to make sure we have a good connection with everybody. And this webinar is also being recorded, so if you want to review it later, it will be made possible. So you can use the chat during the webinar for any questions. We will address as many of them during the Q&A session. So now let's get started. So welcome again. My name is Clara Morisseau. I'm currently part of the Rgmd team at AGC, and it's my great pleasure to welcome our special guest for today, Dr. Anna Chrobry. Anna, if you're there, if you want to say hello.
Hello, everybody. Hello again. I hope I'm meeting other people who participated in the previous webinar and new people as well. Hello.
Thank you so much for being here. So just very brief introduction of Anna. So she's a physicist. She's working in the aerospace sector, and she has worked in collaboration with the dealer while doing a PhD related to understanding the impact of humans on the atmosphere. She has joined several European companies like Airbus, Rolls-Royce, OHB. So she is currently using her energy to establish a Polish and German program with the team of space studies named Space BriGade. So Anna is dedicated to women's empowerment, and she's an advocate for diversity and inclusion. She's also a STEM ambassador, volunteering in different organizations and projects, including Women in Aerospace. So she will be our speaker for today. And so before giving her the floor, I would like to start by introducing the context of this webinar and presenting HGAC. So HGAC is the Space Generation Advisory Council. It's a global non-governmental and non-profit organization and network in support of the United Nations Programme on Space Applications. And it has been created more than 20 years ago, and it aims at representing university students and young space professionals between 18 and 35 to the United Nations space agencies, industries, and academia. It is represented in more than 150 countries, including 15,000 members. So AJC organizes each year around 40 events, but of course last year and this year are going to be a bit different due to the sanitary situation. Nevertheless, we had more than 100 webinars last year, which was really awesome. And this year we also have webinars as you're attending one of them. So if you want to join the organization, you can have a look at their project groups. Also, they have numerous partners and scholarships to help people attending conferences everywhere in the world. So I advise you to check their website. I think the link will be shared in the chat. So now we will be discussing about Giant Leap. So what is Giant Leap? So it's an initiative part of AGC. It has been created in July 2019, and it gathers around 90 members now. We are focusing on diversity, gender equality, and equity. Our main objectives are to raise awareness and break the stereotypes within and outside of AGC. We also would like to provide concrete recommendations for implementation in industry and academia and setting an example for AGSC. Then we are willing to inspire and provide avenues for young people from all horizons, gender, nationality, and background to join the space sector. And last but not least, we would like to enrich the aerospace industry by advocating for diversity and inclusion. So to reach these objectives, we are implementing activities divided in 4 main pillars. So the first one are the long-term projects, so supporting the first women on Mars, educating young children and parents, and last but not least, supporting astronaut selection campaign. We are also aiming at doing some communication and outreach. And on this note, I would like to share with you a little spoiler. We will have a very exciting content and original content that will be released tomorrow, so stay tuned. So we are also partnering with industries and organizations and space agencies that are sharing the same objectives as we have. And we are also aiming at organizing events and helping people organizing events related to diversity in general. So the kickoff event for Giant Leap was SG France 2020, and it took place last September. So one of the types of events we are organizing are webinars. So as I told you a couple of minutes ago, this is the second episode of a webinar series given by Dr. Anna Chrobry about women empowerment. So the first episode took place last December, and it covered the topic of the impostor syndrome. So today we'll be talking about women leadership, and I'm very excited about this one. So now you know a bit more about Anna, about AGSC and Giant Leap. We want to know more about you. So for the people that are just joining us, I invite you to join the Slido, and I will share the results. Hopefully you will see them. Let me know if you're seeing. Yes, it should be working now. So the first question we have for you is where you come from. So I see that we have people from France, from Montreal as well, the Netherlands, Germany, El Salvador. Wow, amazing. Great, Croatia. So lots of people from Europe, but not only. We have people that are probably still in the morning, others in the afternoon, and others also a few. It might be the night already. That's amazing. So I'm still waiting for a couple of minutes, and then we will go with the second questions. Okay, so I see no more answers coming. So next question we have for you is, to which gender identity do you most identify? Okay, so we have lots of women, because of course this webinar is about women empowerment, but I'm very happy to see that we also have men in the attendees. This is a webinar for everyone. It's not at all only for women. I guess Anna will then share this as well. Okay. And so last question we had for you, we were just curious to know why you are attending this webinar. So it's just an information for us for future activities. Well, I'm glad to know that most of you want to improve your leadership skills, because this is why we are here today, right? So you can keep the answers coming, and we will continue with the slides, with the webinar. So prior to the webinar, I sent you a Google form, and some of you filled it, so thank you so much. Here we can see a couple of answers that we had received. We want to share it with you as an introduction before Anna's talk. So the first thing we asked you was the definition of leadership. So we received different definitions, and you can see a couple of them here. So for example, breaking barriers to achieve greatness, bringing new people up and climbing high together, motivating everyone to walk together on the road to success filled with positivity. Lots of the definitions are including people, group. It's not only about the leaders, it's also about people that are surrounding the leaders. Hannah, was wondering, do you have something do you want to react to these definitions? Do you see something that might be missing?
Actually, I see this is very coherent of what I'm thinking about leader. There is not just this one single wolf on the top of the golden tower, but this is basically the person who is able to lead the team of experts and engage them in the activities of the projects. So I'm very happy and very thankful for the fact that people also notice this and they understand the leadership in this way.
Yes, exactly. I completely share your opinion. So the next question we had for you in the Google Forms was about inspiring leaders, leaders that are inspiring you. So I'm going to share with you a couple of names we received. So first from the aerospace, so we have Grazia Vittadini, Elon Musk, Pamela Melroy, Simonetta Di Pippo, and also Dr. APG Abdul Kalam. So these are very inspiring names. I'm also happy to see men and women on this slide. We also had inspiring leaders from politics, because of course when we think about leaders, we think about politics. So we have Barack and Michelle Obama, Jacinda Ardern, Tom Graves, and of course Nelson Mandela. And I was very, very surprised, but in a good way, to see that we had inspiring leaders from different backgrounds. So a surgeon, for instance, David Knott, a South Korean rapper, Aram, a French sailor and writer, Bernard Moitessier, Claudia Parsnazi, who's a regional managing partner at Linklaters and a chair at Allianz, and Tony Redmond, who's working for Microsoft Server Technology. So it's super inspiring to see all those names. So Anna, do you have something to share with us? Do you see, like, who's your inspiring leader? Maybe you will share it during your talk, but you can spoil us.
Yes, that's what I'm planning to do as well, to share some examples. These are just few examples. I have a very long list. If I decide to share with you all my role models and the people who inspire me, probably we will have a dedicated talk about it. I will share about it later, but I absolutely agree with the selection here. Mrs. Grazia from Airbus is really one of my #1 as well. Recently, we have also in my company Chiara, the person which is belonging to the board of members of the company, and she's also very inspiring, as well as Grazia. Both they come from Italy.
Yes, exactly. So when we look at these leaders, we were wondering why are they inspiring, and so we have a couple of qualities that have been shared in the Google form. So some of them, once again, are reflecting the fact that a leader is never alone. So we had caring, dedicating, supportive, share experience, and then a couple of other qualities. In the chat, if you can share other qualities if you think that some are missing, but they're all very, very inspiring qualities that we are also looking for to have, hoping that we could have them as a good leader. Anna, do you see something that is striking or that would be missing, maybe? I see empathic in the chat. Yes, that's a very good one.
For me, I also wanted to mention empathic, but I think caring, supportive, this I think also covers empathy. So yeah.
Yes, they're linked. Yes, exactly.
Another thing, sorry to disturb, and strikes me, cold blood decisions. This is something that works only in theory. We are in the end humans, and we most of the time interact with humans. So who also have emotions. We have emotions, and as much as we would like to keep level of our emotions not affecting our decisions, not affecting our performance, this is not possible. And especially now in the COVID time, we see this that the whole organizations are changing, our all situations are changing. People are under stress, sometimes really unnecessary. We are humans, not robots. So if someone, for example, is going through the divorce, or there is a terrible illness in the family, this is very clear that this person will most probably will not perform 100%, and this should be considered as well.
Yes, yes, definitely. Yes, so having someone who's there as well and that can understand. I saw in the chat someone that is able to understand, to available, accessible. Yes, these are qualities as well, but that we're looking for in a leader. Then we also ask, last but not least, in the Google form, some habits that we don't really like to see in leaders. And so to illustrate them, I've been using some images that we found, so you can see the credits on the slides, making the difference between a boss and a leader. So for instance, we can see that a boss will say hi and a leader will say we. So then, yes, I think those illustrations are really well illustrating, of course, what we see here and what had been shared by the attendees, that we want someone who will take responsibilities of his or her mistakes. The absence of self-criticism as well is not something that we're looking for in a leader. Anna, do you want to share your insight on this slide?
In the end, during my presentation, I will present very shortly some sort of definition of the leader. I would like to do this later.
Yes, exactly. Okay, perfect. Well, that's the perfect transition, because now the floor is yours. So I'm very happy to give you the floor. Maybe, do you want to try again sharing your presentation, or should I just share it?
I think it's better that you do this, and then we will figure out that you will change
Yes.
the slides. So,
okay.
Can you then share, please?
Yes. And sharing. Now you should be able to see it.
Okay, so let's start. If you don't mind, I would like to switch off my camera. I hope it will not be a problem. I would like again to show myself. I hope you can see me. I have here special dedicated patch that is about all space women. I will show you in the end where I got it. I think it's a very beautiful patch because it represents all the women in space. You can see different hands. They are embracing the whole world because we need all the women in all the positions. And I will explain in a minute why I decided to wear a pin like this, patch like this. So stay tuned. So we are starting. So once again, hello everybody, very nice to meet you. Thank you very much for taking your time on Sunday. And I see here is a lot of women, but there are also males. I'm very glad about it. And why I always dedicate my talks not only to women, but also to men. First of all, we have to work together and we have to get to know each other. And the good leader, in my opinion, studies, for example, the background, the culture of their team, or if he's going to some sort of negotiation, he also studies the culture and the background of the partners. But I think it's also important for men to get to know us better, to get to know women better and our situation. So I strongly encourage men also to participate in webinars like this, not only from the position of the leader, but also as a colleague. So next slide, please. Okay, excellent. So today we will speak about the leadership. This is quite an important topic for me. Not only in terms of being a leader, climbing the ladder, which I'm sure many of us are dreaming, not only being a project manager or the program manager or leading NASA or ESA, but also if you are not a frontman, if you don't want to be leader, this is also important to possess this knowledge, possess these skills in terms of being an effective team member. Without these skills, I believe nowadays you cannot really work effectively in very interdisciplinary, complex projects that we are working in space-related fields. And I hope that you watched the Pearl funny movie, which is some sort of funny movie, but it really shows what happens when you are the only female engineer or researcher or technician joining some sort of male-dominated field like aerospace or aircraft, the company that produces aircraft, and what it means to be the minority, what kind of difficulties comes then. So I hope that you watch it. You can write me in a chat if you can somehow relate to it. Yeah. So today talk basically as the previous one, I decided to focus on certain. Okay. Yeah, I see that. Yes, of course. We forgot to say you can always ask the questions. You can always stop me and ask question. So. Today talk, I decided to build upon a book, which is called How Women Rise. And this is one of my favorite books because it really shows the habits and behaviors that brought us till some level on our career. But then we noticed that something is changing, that we cannot, we are not promoted later. And then we are just wondering why. We have this set of skills that brought us to a certain level and we remain loyal to them, but this is absolutely disadvantage to us later. And I will talk about certain strategies, how to overcome it. So the next slide, please. Okay, excellent. So some people are just wondering why I did 2 webinars. I should have done just this webinar about leadership, and then we will cover the subject. But in my previous webinar, I concentrated on very important feature, which is self-confidence, self-value. And now I would like to ask you a question. Have you ever worked with people who are not as good as they think? Clara, can you reply?
Oh, that's a tough question. Yes, I think yes. I mean, yeah, definitely. Sometimes you're working with people that are not as good at as they think. Yes, that are all showing off, and yeah.
Sadly to say, statistically, it will be more likely to be a man.
Yeah.
Women usually think much less about their competences, about their achievements, and this is really, I think it's really, really sad. So, and this is really true. To be seen as a competent person, a leader, you need to demonstrate your self-value. And sometimes, unfortunately, confidence is taken as a competence. Do you agree? Yes.
Yes,
Absolutely.
definitely.
True. This is also true that there are also people who are very competent, but they cannot realize it. Yes, that's also true. So Sally in her book notices this, that frequently somehow women are underrepresented in the leadership positions. And this is not because there are only few capable women or women don't want to rise, but this is because there are too many incompetent, confident men. So that's why I concentrated on my previous talk on the self-confidence, because without it, you cannot be seen as a leader, you cannot perform as a leader. So frequently you just notice that the person is a good leader. He believes in himself, he's strong, and then everything blows up because this person is not competent enough. But on the other hand, I would like you to notice something. The higher you go to the ladder, the higher positions you will have, the more complex projects you will have, you will notice that you cannot be competent in everything. And this is impossible. So that's why it's so important to get used to being the fact that you are not competent, that you have some sort of gaps, but you are also willing to learn and to be able to cover these gaps as soon as possible. You are also willing to work with your team full of experts who will help you maybe not get their expertise 100%, but to understand the problems. So if you want to be leader and you want to climb the ladder, you have to be comfortable to be incompetent. You have to be comfortable with the fact there will be people who are more expert than you. Okay, so the next slide, please. But I really have a good news for you. I don't think that we have to change the women. My talk is not about to change the women. My talk is not to imitate men, basically, but is to understand what kind of features women have that and what kind of implications are then for their career. So next slide, please. So for some people who know a little bit about me or don't know yet, I'm a physicist. This is my background. Now I'm working in the telecommunication in a company called OHB in Bremen. Bremen is a small city in Germany, but this is basically like a small Silicon Valley of Germany. There are so plenty space companies here located. Next one. And I work in the telecommunication field, in future telecommunications. So our job is basically related to reading like a crystal ball. This is how romantically we speak about our work, to learn how in future we will use different communication channels and how then we can use this satellite space infrastructure to support it. So nowadays, for example, everybody wants to have access to internet all the time, reliable. And our task is to understand how we can achieve it in terms of ground infrastructure, but also with the space infrastructure. So, but I say about myself that I would like to see really in this crystal glass, crystal ball, to see the world where the men and women will be equal. Next one, please. So you can read a little bit about me in this article. And I think we can go to the next one. Yes, so initially I wanted to really give this talk, this webinar on the Women's Day, but it's rather impossible because it's a working day, so it will be very difficult to find a fitting slot for everybody all over the world. That's why I already today would like to give you my best wishes on the Women's Equal Day, because I truly believe that there are no jobs for men, there are no jobs for women. Everybody can be super expert, everybody can climb the ladder. And it should not, if you look at these two pictures, in my opinion, it should not be so difficult to find their women, women or different people coming from different countries. Next one, please. So March is also a month, I don't know if you are aware of it, to tell the stories about women. If you check the NASA website or ESA website, there are portrayed many wonderful females and their achievements. And also Wikipedia is organizing special wikitons all over the world to fill up the gap, to write more female profiles. I also supported in Poland to create STEM profiles of physicists and women working in the space field. I also encourage you as much as possible to support these wikitons. So I'm very glad that you provided me some names of the leaders. But I'm just wondering if you know some examples of anti-leaders, some people who are very famous to reach certain level, but they are not the best examples to be the leader. I think here is a very, very known example of this person. Clara, something is not shown?
Yes, sorry. I think you can see my screen back now. Yeah, right?
Yes. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, so this is for me an example of the leader of the country where I live, and demonstrating very beautifully how strong person she is. So let's go to the next one. Yes, so I'm sure that you know who she is. She is a captain. And this was my role model when I was a small girl, and I wanted to be like her, and I wanted to reach stars, and I wanted to climb the ladder. Can you please go to the next one? And then I can tell you the success story in some sort of two ways. So this is a hidden figure. I'm sure you know about her, Katherine Johnson. This is a NASA legend. And I'm pretty sure you know her story. And if you look on the right side, I always tell it in the way that these are her assistants, male assistants, who help her to clean her blackboard. But this is unfortunately not true, because these are real heroes considered back then as successful people who were contributing to the Apollo mission. And in the end, you can see in this photo that are the men who climbed the ladder. Can you go to the next one? And what you observe frequently is that women experience different type of ladder than the men. We somehow jump on the first level, maybe the second, and then we observe our male colleagues jumping from one step to another very, very easily. Next one, please. And I'm sure that you also experience it, that in space there are more men than women. And the next one. But I want to tell you that you can be a leader, that yes, you can, and you can reach whatever heights you want. I hope you will take this message home today. So the next one. This is one of the monuments that I really like. This is the Fearless Girl from New York. This is the monument, and I really like this posture, that this is a small female in the end, but she's standing proudly in this fearless, fun and female, fantastic pose. And if you sometimes feel not very sure about yourself, just try this trick very well. Just stand in this fearless position, this strong position for a few seconds, and you will immediately notice that you feel yourself stronger. You feel yourself that you have more power. It's a very simple exercise, but it really works wonders. Next one. So let's come, what is the leader? What is the leadership? So this definition was changing for so many years, but in the past, it was basically the person who had the power, who was like the boss, who was like the god on everything. And this was classically male wearing a suit and who was always right, who had the final voice, and his door of the office was always closed and he was not reachable. But I think nowadays a leader definitely is the opposite of it. I'm very glad that you showed, for example, I don't know if it was Dalai Lama or someone like this, someone a little bit calmer, introverted, not a front man. This is also an example of the fantastic leader. So what does it mean? What are the features then of the leader? So for me, for example, this is the person who has emotional intelligence, and this is something that you also showed in your answers. So this is the person who is empathic. So does not necessarily concentrate on his own emotions, on his own visions, but also have a look on the other people, on their emotions, on their needs, and react correspondingly to it. So let's go to the next one. This is the next one. Can you go next one?
Yes, with Sadie. Do you see it? Or is it the next one? The one after?
Next one, can you go? Because I think maybe there was, okay, so maybe there was a mistake. Maybe it's later this slide, but I will say it now. So the leader is also the person who is very self-aware. So this is the person who knows his strengths, who knows his super talents. And during my previous webinar, can you go, oh, this one, this is what I wanted to show you. Not this one, next one, Gallop Test. This is something that I was already telling you during my previous webinar. Get to know yourself. This is a test, one of many, but I recommend this one, where you can really learn about your talents, about your superpowers. So what you will learn there, for example, if your superpower is, for example, creativity. So this is my superpower. So in any situation, in any project, I come with absolutely thousands of solutions, thousands of interpretations. So this is my superpower. So this is very important, and I think it's the #1 feature, that you know yourself. Yes, I really love this illustration. This is one of my favorite illustrations, one of my favorite artists that I use, and I use as a background also for my computer to bring me to the very good mood. So if you don't want to remember anything from this webinar, or you don't have time to like implement anything, just do this test and learn who you are, what are your strengths, and then leverage it. This is a very good question. I know companies indeed that actually sponsor the Gallop test, and they also require it. So maybe not during your first interview, but if you are about to join the team, that they somehow force you, encourage you to do the Gallop test. They want to get to know you, but they also share their Gallop test. So you meet your team, and you immediately know what kind of people you work. I think this is very useful, and I also strongly encourage my colleagues or my friends to do it. Okay, so we have a #1 strategy: get to know yourself. Can we go to the next one? Okay, so once again, my talk today I based on the book How Women Rise. I encourage you to read the book and follow the study on the LinkedIn, because there are so many interesting materials. And I was speaking about to get to know yourself, but I would like to bring a little bit different content. I'm sure that many of you know LinkedIn, Facebook, which offers for free Fight Bias program. I think that each of us has certain bias inside us, and it is very important to recognize it and also recognize it in your team. So LinkedIn offers 50 slides for free, where you and your team or a group of people of interest, you can work on special cases and then reflect on it and then learn how to overcome bias. So for example, I was telling you that women and men are perceived in different way. And you probably heard it, that when a woman excels at her job, she's frequently criticized to be aggressive or not a team player or controlling or difficult, whereas for the man, it is foreseen that he is showing leadership skills. So this and many other examples are presented in this Fight Bias program. As I said, you can have the slides for free and work with your team. The next one. So Clara showed you some funny slides about what is boss, what is leader, what is anti-leader, and I presented to you a very serious book, How Women Rise, and now I would like to present you some funny book, How to be Successful Without Hurting Men's Feelings. This is also something that I strongly recommend for you to read or find some resources in the internet and share with your group colleagues or your peers. And this is really happening in the real life when the woman says something and this is considered threatening or too aggressive, and when the man says it, so funnily the person wearing mustache, this is yeah, okay, this is considered as a fantastic idea. Next one, please. And another example that frequently happens is that when the woman says something, this is not heard, this is not recognized, and then in few minutes, a man articulates basically the same, and this is recognized immediately. So I think it's very important to react in these moments and say like, yeah, okay, I see your point. This is very good, but I have impression that a few minutes ago, our colleague, and here the name of the lady, was speaking exactly about it. And thank you very much for recapping this information. So the next one. If you start to read the book of the Sally, How Women Rise, you will most probably be overwhelmed with all these strategies. And frequently people are asking, which strategy is the most important? Where shall I start? I'm not sure. That's why I say like communication. I think this is the most easiest way to change, to modify, and to improve. And here I give you the example that is not coming necessarily from the book of Sally, but from another resources that I follow. And frequently women write and negotiate and communicate in certain way. And this is not bringing you to the results you would like to have. So here you can read something. I was wondering if you could, or I would like to make sure, I would really appreciate if you could, and so on. So if we go to the next slide, you have a link here, so you can basically compare the before and after the letter, how to then communicate and be more more strategic in your request. So for example, thank you for your offer, but I would like to request, or in terms of something, I would like to request. So for me, this is something like a compass that you can have, print, and use whenever you would like to formulate your request to anyone. Next one, please. I don't know how many of you know it. Do you know the buzzword bingo? Clara, are you aware of it?
I know bingo, but I don't know buzzword bingo.
So this one is something that was created, I think, partially by managers or by employers as well. So it looks like managers, leaders frequently are using this some sort of funny language to describe very common activities. And for example, helicopter view means that you are viewing the whole topic, but there's some sort of buzzword used like a helicopter view. So there's some sort of tendency that leaders or managers use these buzzwords excessively. So in the link here, you can listen funny talk about it. And I think this is not the most effective way to communicate. If you notice that you are creating some sort of message to your team or to anyone, and you start to use and you can cross these buzzwords, probably this is a moment that it's very good to take a step, take a break, and think over what you want to communicate. Because it might be the case that by overusing all these words that are really professional, people will not necessarily concentrate on your message, but they will be simply lost. And there's also a funny game that is that is performed actually in real life by employers, by the people who have this table in front of them during the meeting, and then they cross the words. So this really happens during the meetings, and you don't want to be leader where your team will be basically crossing over these words. You want to be the leader who will communicate precisely the message. Okay, the next one. So this is another important topic that I mentioned to you. This is not only having a leadership skills. It's not only about being a leader, running a project, but also being a team member. So this is the book that I would like to recommend you. This is the way how people communicate at work. And if you have a look at this website, you will notice that on the one hand, of course, there are a lot of materials, but also there's a test where you can learn different languages of appreciation. So let's do this test now together. So the next slide. So there are 5 languages of appreciation. First of them is words of affirmation, and I would like you to write down in the chat to me which language do you think you communicate. And frequently the same as with Gallop Test is coming with the question, does the company support this type of testing? In my opinion, not often, but what you can do, you can observe your colleagues, you can observe your office mates, how they communicate, how they interact with you, because people frequently show it very openly, and then you can use it. So for example, let's have a look at the words of affirmation. There are some people who definitely need this. They need to hear the good job during the meeting or after. And if you don't necessarily say it to them, they will not feel that you appreciate them. Oh, fantastic. I see that someone says that words of affirmation. There's another way of communicating, which I think is also very frequent, act of service. So these are the people who need support from their team. So for them, for example, assisting them in anything will make miracles. So even if you thank them 10 times for the good job, but you don't offer them help, they will not consider that you appreciate them. There are also another people, they want to receive gifts. But this is not only in terms of some sort of bonuses, but it could be really anything. Getting a birthday gift, for example, for some people it's so important. The next one. Quality time. I think during the pandemic, this is something that we all suffer a lot because we are working frequently separate. We don't have much contact between each other. So we don't necessarily have any opportunities to spend time together. For example, it was very easy before. We could grab a coffee, we could grab a lunch together and talk about the project. Now we have to definitely plan these actions. And this is also important for the leader to somehow plan the team meetings or some sort of progress meetings that everybody can be engaged and have opportunity to speak about their project, about their achievements, what is going well or what is not going well. And then there is the physical touch. This is, I think, something that is very cultural related. There are cultures where there's basically no-go. This is a no-go to touch each other, but there are cultures where basically patting someone on the back or shaking the hand is basically a must. I experienced it a lot when I joined certain teams. Everybody were shaking hand together, like to say hello, or they were kissing each other. And for me, for example, I was used to just coming to the meeting and saying hi. And without this physical touch, I was not considered as a part of the team even. And I understand that here we are coming from different worlds, from different backgrounds. So it might be the case that in some part of the world, it is something that is absolutely no-go, that you cannot, like male or female, or you cannot touch your boss. Okay, the next one. Clara? Okay, so
Yes,
another. Super. Okay. Yeah, culture gap. This is something that we all have to consider. So the woman who shattered the ceiling, the glass ceiling, yes, the very first vice president of the USA. And you notice that frequently women are trying to imitate the men in terms of their outfit. And I'm so glad that there are so wonderful females who try to keep it female. If you look at her outfits, she's amazing. She really dressed very female-like, and I really, really enjoy it. And I mentioned to you at the beginning that I was wearing this patch, and this is related to another wonderful woman, Mrs. Albright. And she had this habit to wear a pin on her chest. And you can see here, for example, there's a lion, and there's a, I think it's a snake. And via this, she was giving her statements, her political statements. So it's a very interesting book to read her biography, her successes, her achievements in terms of the pins she was wearing. So I think this is something beautiful to be a woman, that we can make certain statements via our outfits. Okay, the next one. Another important strategy for the woman in terms of some sort of comparison with a man. Men look for mentors. They are very easy to reach to anyone, especially at the beginning. Women, on the other hand, in my opinion, concentrate more on the task that they have, that they want to perform as good as possible. They are shy to ask for help and not to be seen as incompetent. And they also think that they don't want to use anyone. They don't think that they have any leverage to ask. But I want to give you a very simple example how to leverage some sort of network that you have. For example, if you go to some meeting or some new situation with new people for you, you can ask someone who is familiar with the group and ask them, you know what, I'm going to join this or this event or organization. Can you please tell me anything I should be aware before joining them? What is the dynamic of the team? What is the culture of the team? Because I have the impression that you are in a good relations with them. So this is as simple as this. Guys are doing this all the time, and I have impression that women are very reluctant. I see that there are some comments about it. I hope I can reply to this later. Okay, next one. And sometimes women feel and fear to be a leader because they are scared they will be alone on the top. They still have this perception of the leader that he is this single wolf of the pack alone somewhere. And I want to tell you that as a fantastic leader, you will be always surrounded by fantastic people. You will never feel alone. They will be supporting you. I also want to tell you that do not sit with alone far from your team in some sort of golden tower or always a locked office. And last but not least, leader is not about some sort of title or some sort of big office, sort of perks and so on. I always say that it's better to work and live in a green land than somehow to be a queen of a desert, so have only some sort of title or sort of big office and not really doing necessary great things. Okay, the next one. So for me, we are here all, of course, somehow in the space industry. And I think we know the wonderful Toy Story. And I don't need to introduce you this character. And what I find very inspiring is the story of the Pixar, story of the Pixar leader. And he wrote a book about being a leader. And I would also strongly recommend you to read some chapters or some sections of it. And what strikes me really important, and I try to remember and apply as much as possible, is that it's all about your team. It's all about the people you lead and you work with. And if you give a mediocre idea to a brilliant team, they will make it fantastic. But even if you give the best idea ever to the team who is not competent, nothing good will happen. So surround yourself with competent team, competent people. And last but not least, this is next one, please. And this is my really favorite strategy that strikes me the most from the book is perfectionism of women. And we all fail in this trap. And research shows that, unfortunately, we are rewarded for being a perfectionist. I'm sure that you experience a situation when some colleague delivers some presentation or some document which is not basically ready, but he is super proud of it. He receives a lot of recognition out of it. He receives a lot of feedback. And on the other hand, there is a woman that works very hard to polish her presentation and deliver it super quality. Whereas in this time, the colleague already submitted it and he had time to network, to get the feedback, to get the improvements. And this is the way how women, I'm reading. Yes, this is also the true person wrote here that women might also be scared to ask for help, not to be seen as incompetent. Yes, that's also true. And another problem that comes with perfectionism is that women tend to be very good at their work, get all the necessary competences, and then they somehow become stuck there because they are so good in this work that nobody wants to move them because no one else will be able to do their job. So this is some sort of a dilemma that we have to face. On the other hand, another way of being the women feature of being a perfectionist is not able to quit. I see it all over and all over again that women don't want to be seen as incompetent because they quit. They want to finish the project, they want to finish the job, they want to stay as long as possible, they want to be loyal, whereas their male colleagues, they quit very easily, they move to the new project, they move to the new team. And I think this is something that definitely takes us from the objectives or from the projects we could reach. So instead of like thinking right now what I will miss if I quit right now, think rather what I will gain in the long term. Okay, so I think we are more or less achieved what I wanted to present to you. Here you can see again the patch, Women of Space patch, that I was mentioning at the beginning, that I'm wearing now as my pin, proudly. And I really strongly encourage you to get a patch like this or something similar. Where you can order this patch, Sylvia, there's a link here. I tried to copy it or not. No, I cannot. Clara or someone, can you copy it?
I think Charlotte just shared the link of the patch. Yeah, Women of Space patch, sorry. So you might have the link to buy it as well. Thank you, Charlotte.
Okay, excellent. So how would you like to do it, Clara? We go through the comments, so we go for the questions that they were asked online. Clara, I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So yes, I was saying that we have a lot of questions from the chat, also from the Google form and from the Slido. So we will go through them. Let me just reshare my screen. I think you can start answering a first question that has been asked in the Google form. So are there, I mean, we mentioned some negative traits in personality, but are there some that are typical from a technical background, such as engineers and scientists, and that they might struggle being aware of, and how we can work on those traits?
I'm not sure if I understand the question, sorry. So you mean like
Do you want me to phrase it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, so the question is, there are some traits that are not, that at the beginning we mentioned some qualities for being a leader, and also some non-qualities, some defaults that are like some things that are negative with leaders. And the question is focusing on people with a technical background, so scientists or engineers. Are there some traits that they are more typical, that they can have more typically, like I don't know, that's the question basically. If they might be striking with some of those negative traits because they have a technical background, and how they can work on those traits.
I think when I was mentioning the definition of the leader, the leadership was the person who in the past knew everything. So he knew sort of managerial aspects and he knew technical aspects. And nowadays we see that certain different people climb the ladder. On the one hand, of course, technical people who start from certain simple project and they climb, more complex. And also we see people who study something related to some sort of management or system engineering, that they have not much technical background, not much details on the technical background. And let's say for some people it's seen as a sort of struggle. What is better? And my answer is always both. If you really want to be a leader, you need to be able to have both features. So even if you come from the technical background, you need to be able to grow towards leader and manager. And if you have this manager background, you have to be willing to catch up on the technical aspects. So I don't see it as a problem at all that someone is technical, someone is engineer. It's just a matter of motivation, of opportunities to grow towards the management. I also noticed at the moment that also during the studies, it's a little bit different philosophy to train engineers, that they have also opportunity to learn about different management aspects. They do not need to provide necessarily only some sort of technical solution of sort of product like hardware or software that will meet certain technical requirements, but this product also need to fit, for example, time frame of the project. So we have to be able, we have to deliver it within certain time and within certain budget. So I have a feeling that some of the people who ask this question or have this sort of concerns are coming from the past a little bit, where this type of working, this type of studies were not yet introduced. But I think nowadays everybody has to be partially technical and partially manager. And if the person feels that has only sort of technical background, I think a nice opportunity is also to ask, speak. And this is something that we also mention in this book that I didn't cover, is that you cannot sit and wait that someone will guess what you want. You need to be very vocal. You have to be very clear about your goals, because it might be really the case that you grow in your technical work, in your technical field, and people will be thinking this is what you want, that you want to stay there, you want to stay in your bubble. And it might be the case that you want more. So that's why it's a really good opportunity to speak to your line manager or to other project managers and say, this is what I want. How can we achieve it?
Thank you for the answer. Yes, I remember Alina shared in the chat that yeah, we sometimes don't speak about what we want, and it's also a barrier for us. Another question that we have from the chat from Neda: if women can get stuck in areas that they become experts in, should we avoid becoming experts? And is there a way we can become experts and still climb the ladder?
I want to be very clear. I don't tell anyone not to be competent, not to become expert, not to become adept in any field. This is not what I want to say, but this is something that one shall be aware of. Apart from doing the job, it's also very important to network, to speak to people, what you want, how you want. So we all have 24 hours. Let's say we work 8 hours, but during these 8 hours, we shall have time for everything, not only to do the job, not only to polish the job, but also to concentrate on other aspects. So write down in your calendar, I have to network once per week. Now it's very difficult. You cannot grab a coffee, you cannot grab lunch or whatever, but you can still somehow schedule something, even 15 minutes WebEx with your colleague.
That's a very good point, Anna. So you were mentioning COVID, and yes, it's a tough time for everybody. How do you bring together disparate teams so that they can function well and feel like a cohesive unit? So that's how a leader should behave in such a moment.
I think very, very important is to be very precise in communication, what we want to achieve and how and why, and to include people in this decision line. So it's not enough just to say you have to do this, but also show what will be the impact. So I would like you to deliver me this or this data, for example, because I will deliver it to the customer and we will win this or this project. So it's very important to show bigger picture with the team, that they understand what is the vision, they understand what we want to achieve and how. And this has to be, I guess, verbally repeated, I think, more often than before, because we don't have this opportunity that we need, and we, the team, and so on, will receive this communication from directions when we are on the same place. But now we basically need to do this one-to-one frequently.
Yes, definitely. That's once again a very good point. So another question that we have in the chat from Sylvia Battery. Have you experienced prejudice or biases towards you being a female in a male-dominated industry in your professional life? And if yes, what was your approach and how did you handle it?
Of course that I experience biases because I'm a female, because I'm Polish, I come from Eastern Europe, and most of the time I work in the environment or Western Europe countries, Western Europe colleagues. We definitely are slightly different. But I want to say that everywhere you will meet certain bias in every industry. So, for example, even if you come to being in the group where there are only females, most probably you will notice that perhaps you are the only one who comes from a small village and all of them are coming from the big city, or you're the one who didn't study on the most prestigious university, and so on. So I want to say that everywhere are biases and different biases, and I think it's very important to recognize that you also have a lot of biases in you. So this is why I really recommend to everybody to do this course with you, with your team, with your colleagues, people of your interest, to reflect on yourself first of all. Because sometimes we see things in other people and we don't see in ourselves. And I think the good leader firstly recognizes things about himself. So, any example? I cannot think anything very specific at the moment that would really affect me a lot. I just understand that we are all humans, we all have problems, we all have different needs, and I think the best way is to have this willingness to communicate, this willingness to work together, this willingness, motivation to find a solution together. And in my opinion, this is the best approach, which really brings change, brings improvements. And as I said, women tend not to be quitters. They don't want to give up. But if I see that the situation is not going well, I'm also willing to give up. I always say to everybody that there are so many interesting companies, there are so many interesting projects, and even if you don't want to quit, you don't want to change the job, I think it's good to network and to speak to people to get new inspiration, new motivations.
So communication is key then. And so you were mentioning inspiration. One question that we had as well is, how do you effectively use role models to inspire your leadership skill?
I have to say that from every role model that I have, and they are also changing during my career. I changed them really a lot because I also grew up a lot, and then sometimes this role model does not help me anymore. So one, for example, of the role model that I have is Claudia Kessler. I think many of you know her. She's the person who is basically the lady behind the VIA, Women in Aerospace Europe. I think that many Europe, or yes, she started the chapter of the Europe and then a chapter here in Bremen. And for me, she was really one of the few women that I ever met in a space industry, because I only saw men. So for me, it was very exciting to see the woman, to see so successful woman, and the woman who is willing to help other women. So she started this organization. And I remember that I struggled a lot between my work and life balance. And I remember that she decided to give us opportunity to meet her and to talk. So we young VIA members, young professionals were speaking to her. And she mentioned something that was so obvious in the end, but I did not realize it. And she said like, yeah, so find a job that will allow you to have work-life balance and you will not struggle. And then it was such an eye-opener for me, because I was doing the other way around. I was trying to find some sort of magic tricks how I can get this work-life balance. But she said like, yeah, this is so important for you. It's important for you personally, for your development, that you have work-life balance. Try to find a job that will give you it from the beginning.
That's a very good point. Yes, the balance between the professional and personal life is very, very important. One of the questions for you on how women held to a higher standard in the industry. And so this person, so Mega, is a student and she's looking forward to a successful career. And she's wondering if she needs to be better than her peers to be treated equally.
Unfortunately, this is really something that is certain bias, that women have to be much better than the men. So we have to prove more, we have to improve more, we have to develop more, we have to contribute more. Also because frequently we are only few women, so everybody immediately notice us if we are there, if we are not there, what we contribute. So unfortunately, we are noticed. But I think that if you decide to join certain team, this is also important to make a conscious decision what kind of team you join. If the team is really valuing your contribution. So I would say the other way around. Try to find a team that you are aware of, that you will be sure that your contributions will be valuable, that your line manager will value you, who you are, for your achievements. And I want to tell you that there are definitely plenty of line managers like this, and then you will not need to be worried about this.
Well, that's a good news. Thank you. So during your presentation, Anna, you mentioned that a leader has to be surrounded by good people. And so one question from Alice, is it part of the role of a good leader to select carefully his or her team members, so to make the best team of people who complement one another?
And this is yes, this is absolutely true. Certain people have a philosophy that your team is as good as your best expert, and I think the opposite. Your team is as bad as your weakest person. So the other way around. So even if you have a wonderful experts, but you have people who are not very competent or not very motivated or any other way, unfortunately, this will be the impact on your team.
Okay, thanks for the answer. Yes, this is very true. So one question for the Slido.
Sorry to disturb you. That's why it's very important, even if it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and you are scared you will not be able to do it. Really, this is crucial to get your team of experts or very motivated people and create a working group, because this is a baseline. This is like as though you are trying to build a beautiful house and without foundation, and you just concentrate on a beautiful roof. This will not work.
Yes, thank you for the complementary answer, Anna. So we also had questions from the Slido. So one related to all the content that you've been sharing today. You've been sharing many different links and books. So Charlotte and the Rgmd team, they try to do the best to share all the links. Which one out of the books that you mentioned do you recommend us to get?
I recommend definitely to get all of them. Otherwise, I will be not them. But this one, both for men and women. This is, as I said, I don't want to. Yes, you also read it. I like to ask you what's the best strategy or the most important striking message that you got. So once again, I don't say anyone or to any women you have to change yourself, but you have to be aware of certain behavior, of certain habits, and how it will impact your career later. So I would say this is my number one, where to start, and then the rest, as I said. So maybe you would like to share.
Yeah, that's a very good start. I have been reading it, and full of very insightful solutions, and very inspiring book. So another question, and I think we are almost done. So maybe one of the last questions from Chiara from the chat. Have you ever noticed a different treatment by men, women based on how much they assumed you earned?
I would say it's yes, because it's not in a way that it was sort of open discussion or anything. Personally, I don't mind speaking about salaries or about any other compensation packets. I'm very open about it, but I understand that I also live and work in Germany, where sometimes it's a taboo and people are not very willing to share. So, but one can get this information or try to get this information. For example, if one notices that the person is very good at negotiation, then one can perhaps get an idea that this person gets a better salary than me. But for me, it's not a problem. Even if I notice that someone or I see in a team certain behavior like this, I always say like, yes, salary is the one part of your compensation packet. Perhaps there are others, like for example, trainings. Perhaps you got a training that your colleague doesn't get. Perhaps you have more opportunity to plan your time more flexible. This is also very important to recognize what is important for you. It is only salary, but I also encourage people, yes, if you don't like your salary, you don't like something, just speak. Perhaps people are not aware of the fact that you would like to earn more or have other opportunities. So for me, it's an opportunity to speak about future opportunities and improvements.
Okay, thank you for the answer. So we've been together for an hour and a half. It's been a real pleasure once again, Hannah, to hear about everything you had to share today, but also in December. So we are currently sharing some links in the chat if you want to continue the discussion. please feel free to join the Slack of our Giant Leap. We are sharing all the events and everything we're organizing. And so the slide that you're currently seeing at the screen, it's the confidence boost. So it's something that has been done by our Giant Leap to help women be more confident. And so you will be able to see more tomorrow during the very very special content that will be released. I'm sure Hannah knows what I'm talking about, and so we advise you to stay tuned, follow us on Slack so that you will be able to hear everything about this and future activities. Hannah, thanks again a lot for the talk. Thank you also to all the attendees. I've seen that some of you had to leave earlier, but we're receiving a lot of thank you notes, so it's really amazing to see that you enjoyed the chat with us. One last word from you, Anna, maybe?
Thank you very much for joining again. Once again, all the materials I will provide you, so even if you miss something, you will be able to catch up later, don't worry. And yes, you can find me on LinkedIn, so you can contact me if you would like to still continue speaking about leadership or have any other questions. I'm very open. Thanks a lot for having me again. This was really a great pleasure.
Perfect. Yes, we will share all the content, and also this webinar was registered, so you will be able to review it again on the YouTube channel. We will share it per email, so if you were registered to this webinar, you will receive the links. So that's it for us. Thank you all for joining, and take care, everybody. Enjoy the happy Women's Right for tomorrow, the International Women's Right, and have a great end of the weekend. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.